All right, hello everyone. My name's Eric Monson,
And I'm Matt Taylor.
and this is our CS 125 final project. It's an app that we titled Audio Mirror. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. Um, so we began by making a share audio um app. Um, and basically it uses the Bluetooth API. As you can see, I've linked here the Bluetooth API documentation, as well as a couple of tutorials that were very helpful along the way. Um, but we start in main activity. We initialize all the buttons, and Eric's going to explain that later. Um, but the biggest thing here is we have on-click listeners for each of the buttons and two list views. So you'll see later, but there is a list view for paired devices and a list view for unpaired devices. And when you click on one or the other, they each have different actions. So a unpaired list view, as you can see, it will create a bond between devices. And that bond doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to connect. And so in order to connect them, you have to go to the paired devices list view. And in that paired devices list view, that's where you click on the item, and the on item click listener will cause them to pair. You also have a on and off button for Bluetooth, and big discover button for the unpaired devices list, and another button for the paired devices list. In order to use this API, we had to use a lot of classes outside, and we also had to access Bluetooth permissions in Android Manifest because it wouldn't have been possible without asking for the permissions. Um, One very, very important class is the Bluetooth connection service. And basically, it's very complicated. But basically, it goes through a list of UUIDs, and that's how it determines if it can connect to that Bluetooth device. So it'll find these UUIDs and go through the specific device you're trying to connect to and make a Bluetooth socket to try and connect to it. And if it can't, we have this try catch block here that throws an IO exception. So yeah, Eric, anything else?
Yeah. So all these different aspects of the code, like we mentioned earlier, like the button, the toggle switch returning Bluetooth on and off, and all those different things are all controlled by a nice UI that we've designed in the app. So right now, a couple of the components that actually go into that UI, I'm going to start with those. So first, we have this class called Device List Adapter, and what this basically is a custom view adapter for the list view device that goes through and takes all of our different Bluetooth devices that I have highlighted here, gets their names and displays them in a list of clickable items that you can connect to or bond to in the future. We also created this custom device adapter view.xml. Basically, it's just a little text box, but we reference this in device list adapter to change the name and then create a bunch of a list view of different things. That's all handled in main activity. We have to create these smaller helper classes to get that done. Here's the actual activity XML itself. This is the text version of it. Scroll through it quickly. This here is the actual visual aspect of it. All of these different items are constrained with a constraint layout, so they can fit on multiple different devices. We have our paired list view, our unpaired list view, and a couple other things, and a few surprises here with the buttons and I don't know, different things we worked in there. So yeah, it might look a little bit wonky here on the actual activity main.xml, but if we actually start up the emulator here, um, we'll see the way it looks on a Google Pixel 3a. So this is one interesting problem that we have to bring up, and that's the fact that the emulator that's provided with Android Studio actually doesn't have built-in Bluetooth support. So we couldn't run our code natively on an emulator, and actually get any of the Bluetooth support to work. So what we actually added in is this little function here that detects if there is a Bluetooth adapter. If there isn't a Bluetooth adapter, it says device not supported, grays out the discover button, and doesn't let anything happen. Now, to actually make this, to remedy this problem, if we return to Android Studio and go to main activity, you can see this little test right up here. If we comment this out quickly, we can see what the UI would look like if it was an actual phone, or at least basically. Let's see if it'll update. There we go. So unfortunately, I can't click on any of these buttons because the app will crash because it's an emulator. But you can see the problems that we are running into all the time. But
Yes, yes.
this is what the emulator would look like on an actual phone. So for me, let me mention all these problems. I don't have an Android phone in my house at all. I only have iPhones, so I couldn't actually test a lot of the functionality of this app, which is why I tried to work on a lot of the UI design, and Matt did a lot of the actual like behind the scenes coding work. So that's how we kind of delegated the tasks there. But now, speaking of having an Android phone, Matt's going to demonstrate a bit of what it looks like on his mom's phone.
Yes. So I also have an iPhone, so I'm using my mom's Android here. So I set up debugging, and I'm running this on her phone. So first things first, you can see that it accesses the Bluetooth permission. So it says an app wants to turn Bluetooth on for this device. So allow turning Bluetooth on. And I just want to show you, when we turn this off here, you can see that Discover is grayed out and paired devices is also grayed out because Bluetooth is off. And when you turn it on, Discover comes back on. And so right now, if I click on paired devices, you can see my list of devices that are already bonded, but not yet paired. And so, purposes of this demo, I'm going to add a couple more. So let's see here. First thing would be we go to Discover. I really like the animations on here too. It
Yeah, those
wobbles
are
a little
really
bit.
clean.
So I have my iHome speaker right here. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go to turning this to pairing. I'm gonna press for it to refresh. And as you can see here, it's an iHome speaker. So iHome IBT72 pops up. Um, One problem we did run into though was that the addresses kept showing up for other devices that didn't have names. So to work through that, we just displayed their address names. That was the
Mhm.
cleanest workaround we could find.
Otherwise, it was just
But
going to be a blank screen. So we added the addresses in instead of the names.
exactly, yeah. Um, so yeah, if I go here and I click on iHome IBT72, um, it should be bonding right now. And there it is. So it says pair with iHome speaker, and I say pair. And so what this does, it doesn't physically connect it, it just bonds it. So now I have to go back to my paired devices list view, see that it shows up. So the list is updated. Now I'm gonna show you with my AirPods, another cool way to do it. So we'll get the AirPods working here. We're holding them. All right, so discover. Now, let's see,
Sometimes it
Matt's
takes a second.
AirPods Pro. Yeah, sometimes it takes time to find the devices, but
It's an old Android phone.
it's it's a very old Android phone. Um, so let's see. And also we have a time limit. So if I say pair, it won't expire. Um, so pairing. Now if I click on this again, it should be paired. And yeah, It's fair. We can go test that. I mean, obviously, you guys wouldn't be able to hear
It's in the
the
headphones pretty much.
yeah their headphones, but
I was actually at your
yeah, if
house and it was working, so
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all we got going on here. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of an error involved in the whole thing. We mentioned in the beginning of this whole thing that we wanted to design an app that could mirror the audio between multiple devices. So you could have multiple people wearing headphones and they could all be hearing the same audio at the same time, similar to what they already have implemented on Apple devices on how you can split audio between AirPods. Unfortunately, we ran into an error that uh, we can only share audio, at least in Java and Android Studio, uh, on Android, obviously, with only certain devices and with certain phones. That's because to share the Bluetooth between multiple devices and to have the audio stream actually be mirrored to multiple devices, you have to have certain hardware built into the phone. And because I don't have an Android phone, and because Matt has a very old Android phone,
Right.
unfortunately, we weren't able to actually get any of this part to work, just because we were hardware limited. So that part of the app of being able to actually mirror audio between multiple people didn't work out in the end. So we just created a fancy way of connecting Bluetooth via the settings page. But
Yeah,
uh,
it's a cooler settings.
yeah,
That's all it is.
it's got animations and it's
Cooler.
green and blue and it's cool. So yeah, that's basically our project. Yeah, and unfortunately that part didn't work, but I think the rest of it does, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.